Hello, good morning. Today we're going to talk about the STRC Depeg, or so we call it, Depeg. Depeg. It's not a real peg. As of this morning, the price of STRC is sitting at around $83. The effective yield is now going to go up to about 14%. Already the dividends they increased it since I wrote the script for this video. Now it's up at 12% from 11.5. So they've already done one thing, I suggest, just to raise the dividend. So far, so people all over the internet are comparing this to like some kind of collapse, and this is where they're wrong. So, in my opinion, are wrong. So all the bears are comparing this to Terra Luna crash. The structure and strategy setup is different. So it's from Google. As you all remember, back in 2022, there's a huge Terra Luna crash, and it wiped out 60 billion in the stable coin. So what happened? It was algorithmically pegged. So it'll sell off one thing to kind of like fund the other. So it'll sell off Luna to fund the Terra and keep it pegged to $1. And so in this anchor protocol, also with really high yields, and users would deposit USDT. So what would happen is in early May 2022, and growing skepticism around the sustainability of anchor protocol, a huge round of bank causing USDT to fall, or UST, which is US Terra, to fall. And it never hit this market. This is in the last bear market. So, and the algorithm eventually could not restore the peg. So it would sell off the Luna and completely sell it off until zero. And this hyperinflationary minting cause dropped from 100 for Luna to practically nothing. And so, and just to try to keep the peg up of it would sell it off to nothing. And but now the structure between MSTR has some, STRC has some parallels, but the only difference, one of the key differences, is that there is no algorithm. I know he kind of like Michael Saylor is kind of like, or Wang Li or whatever his name is, the actual CEO of StrategyB, has some kind of incentives to like try to keep the price of MSTR higher, and they can use lots of different techniques. So what happened this time is traders took out leverage on these projects, got liquidated, and cascaded liquidations to drive down the price further and further. So the weak hands took profits and capitulated and sell out. The shorts take their profits and sell out. So all the traders take their loss, tax loss harvest, and leave the trade. So once the pressure has gone down high enough, everyone sells out, and they all take their trade, take their profits. So, and as the price goes down further and further, less shorts want to pile in, because if you're going to trade this, you have to try to make money. So once all the weak hands are gone, the bomb hits, and more traders buy in, and associated prices rise up. And the first what happens, and the prices go up. So just because the yield goes up, the effective yield, and then that would try to drive the price up. So that's the only thing strategy really has. to drive the price up is one is to increase the price of these Bitcoin up enough to increase it up. And they can't really influence the price of Bitcoin, so they have to influence the price of strategy. And they can't, so pretty much they have to influence the price. So they can't really have no effect on the price. So they can't really do much. All they have to do is pretty much try to get the, but all the traders, and what happens, what you call it, like a short squeeze. So now you see what happens. It's already been a bounce up, almost hit 72 and hit 74. So, or hit 71, hit 74. And both of these kind of prices were come up by some kind of resistance where people stepped in and bought up the stock, which is good for it. So pretty much the market is saying this is not dead. We still believe in this and kind of driving it up. But the price is a long ways from being able for it to yield coins. And I think that was one of the probably missteps in the Saylor, is he said that, oh, this is like a money market account, whereas it is considerably more risk because of these traders for a money market account. So what does this mean for strategy? Is they can't stack Bitcoin with this instrument. They have to raise cash by buying Bitcoin by selling the common. So all this means is and then they can't accumulate. They cannot accumulate because there's no upward pressure on the stock above 100 where shares are sold to the market. Therefore, they have to raise the dividend. So the dividend will go higher in the short term to attract investors. So, and I don't believe they can raise it to 20% or greater, but they'll keep raising it to try to get the investors back. And so, as these investors will shy away from the product, making it hard for them to raise Bitcoin. So they can't raise as much Bitcoin, so the flywheel now has come to a stop and starts spinning backwards. So it's not algorithmically like a Terra Luna crash or causes a doom loop, because they can stop it and saying, oh, we'll kind of stop this peg here. But now people are selling up MSTR shares, so now it is running in reverse. So it's kind of, they're in a tricky situation now. I think what they did yesterday kind of helped this, which I'll do another video on later on, where they kind of put the stop on and raised a bit more cash, which is good. So the only thing can hold the peg is kind of like market dynamics and investor incentives. So they raise the dividend to hold the peg. But now it's severely broken. They kind of try to push it back up. So otherwise, they have to use their cash reserve to buy up some STRC shares and kind of push the price back up. So increased buying pressure, if they pair with the Bitcoin price is pumping, they can boost this price. Well, it all depends on Bitcoin sentiment, market sentiment, and how much the cash reserves are. They boost their cash reserves a little bit now, from 1.2 billion now with their new press release they put out Monday to 1 or 2.25 billion. So they'll continue to sell MSTR into the market to try to save these preferreds. But now MSTR, so it's kind of acting like this doom loop now. So that's not good for MSTR. Now we're stuck in the middle of this bear market. Another way, they can use cash reserves to buy up these MSTR shares. And I don't recommend they use Bitcoin because it will signal to the market that they are in distress. And to punish the price even more. So the third way is to naturally, is to let the yield, high yield naturally. Yeah, I recommend they use Bitcoin because it will signal that they are in stress and punch the price even further. So the third way is naturally let high yield attract investors. So let's wait for a change in Bitcoin sentiment to increase the price. Now the prices, although the yield on the preferred has hit, and some of the preferred has hit 20% returns. So the 20% better you can trade with the gray market index, and many investors are kind of like betting on that. That's why they kind of pile back into the stock to drive it back up from the low of 72 to now 83. So like, so what strategies moves now? So now there is it's kind of like, is to just pay the dividends. Kind of like once the investors get their dividends, they realize that strategies under no risk. But they got that big cash. They can like kind of like, oh, we're fine. We can pay this dividend, and they're under no risk, and they can say, oh, you're getting your dividends. So what's the issue here? So, and just make small Bitcoin buys by selling their cash reserves and try to regain investor confidence. And keep saying, oh, there's no death spiral here. We can continue paying. We can make you guys whole. And then if there's like some kind of pump in the Bitcoin price, they can make calculated buybacks, MSTR or STRC, going to run up to kind of push the price up. And I recommend no more selling the Bitcoin. Don't sell for the short term. That should be a last case, especially in the middle of a bear market. They can start selling Bitcoin back when in the bull market, but just not now. They got lots of cash. They'll need to start selling more Bitcoin. And what I recommend, probably the greatest thing, is just to wait for change in sentiment of the Bitcoin. So that is just like and that natural change in sentiment will increase the price MSTR. And also wait for some kind of strengths in the market to kind of perform any of these more ATMs or buyback converts. And now they got a little bit of strength off this most recent announcement. And so you can buy back these two most recent converts, probably in 2029 is the biggest price increase. But they have 14 months before the first bond wall and 23 months before the second bond wall hits. So how long is bear market going to last? That's what you have to ask yourself. And again, they continue to play this game for the next 14 months, make a small, just pay the dividends and go into hibernation for the next 14 months. And will that kind of like, how would that affect the price? I think it'll reflect on Bitcoin, but we're in the middle of a bear market here, so they got a lot of time to kind of like get it up. So they got 23 months to get it up to 433, and then they have to start to shell up even more. So, and here's the bonds. So you got the 2028 maturity, and the put date's at next September 15th. So that's the 14 months, and you have to pay off this, pay it out at 130.85, and the next one comes due even later. So that's 1.5 billion at the 433. So, but now they were just to like, and they didn't like this last market. Didn't like when they bought back the last convert or last bonds, and because months ago there was 2 more bonds I've had these 2 that they bought back. So I'm saying they might want to buy back these bonds at this low price just to try to wipe it out. But that, I don't think the market like that, so they might have to wait for some kind of pump in the price first. So now the flywheel has gone from forward to backwards, and now they're hemorrhaging cash and trying to raise cash by selling MSTR at the market. So they kind of like, they cannot stack using STRC anymore. So if Bitcoin doesn't get any momentum, they're kind of like, for the next 14 months, they have to like use their cash reserves. So that's why I think they bolstered up their cash reserves by selling MSTR at just really low prices. So they kind of like plummeted the stock to do this. So they are in some kind of pressure by doing this. So what is your opportunity? Not financial advice. So we don't believe in Bitcoin or strategy. We don't touch this stuff, right? But you believe that strategy will fail and Bitcoin marches on without him. This is just an opportunity to stop the stack cheap sats caused by a bad player like Terra Luna back in 2022, like FTX back in 2022. So you can just say, how was this? I can just stack at these cheap prices. Saylor caused this mess. If it fails, we find stack some cheap Bitcoins or sats. And you can say and use some of your cash reserve to stack. That's the lowest risk one, because strategy can blow up, make mistakes, and you still have your sats and cold storage at the end. And we believe that strategy can weather the storm, the medium risk one. So yeah, you can buy some of these products when they're under pressure and sell when it rebounds and collect dividends for the meantime. And you can get some really high yields if you think they're going to weather the storm, like up to 20% in some cases. And high risk is just to buy the MSTR common. And the price is pretty depressed, but you can get a bounce. And these long duration call options will bounce as well. So, and you get extra yield on Bitcoin if the strategy can weather the storm. The highest risk, you like to gamble and be like, you think the market's going to make a quick bounce back? Just short duration calls. This is like, you can get extreme yield if the market cooperates, but also the high probability you get wiped out because nobody knows. Bitcoin might go to 40,000 short term. Who knows? So if you enjoyed this video and you wish to compensate me, you learn something about strategy or Bitcoin, please feel free. You can join me on YouTube at Andre Invests and Stack Sats. Thank you. Also, like more great Bitcoin content. It's visionaries and maybe Bitcoin. And here's my school link. Andre Invests and Tax Stats. Thank you.